The curse of the Zamindar. Imagine this. You walk into your room at night, and you see someone you love standing there. But right beside them, there's another one. Same face, same eyes, but one is crying in fear, and the other is smiling at you. That's exactly what happened to Zamindar Ilyas. After the death of his son, Johora Begum was completely broken. But soon, strange things started happening inside the house. Gold, jewelry, and money began disappearing. At first, Ilyas thought it was theft. He believed the servants were taking advantage of their grief. Without hesitation, he dismissed almost everyone. Only one trusted servant remained. With no one left to manage the household, even taking care of livestock became difficult. One by one, all the cows and goats were sold. The once lively Zamindar house slowly turned silent. Even the villagers stopped visiting. Fear had spread. One evening, just before sunset, Johora went to draw water. She lowered the bucket into the well. But when she tried to pull it up, it wouldn't move. She tried again, harder this time. Still nothing. Then suddenly, the water inside the well began to ripple. Something was moving. Slowly, a dark shape began rising from below. Before she could react, it grabbed her and pulled her down into the water. Her scream echoed through the empty house. Ilyas rushed outside. He saw her struggling, drowning. With great effort, they managed to pull her out. But after that day, she was never the same again. She often said, someone was always around her, watching, standing silently in corners. At night, her dreams became disturbing. She would see herself doing things she could never even imagine. She stopped eating properly. Every time she tried, she became sick. Day by day, she grew weaker. Ilyas thought it was just grief. But one night, everything changed. He returned home late. As he entered the room, he froze. There were two Johoras, one sitting in the corner crying, the other standing smiling at him. Slowly, the smiling one spoke. Why did you do that to your own son? Ilyas felt his body go cold. He couldn't speak. The other one began walking toward him. There was something in her eyes, something not human. The situation slipped out of control. Ilyas broke down. Take everything, just leave my wife. Then the voice came again. You won't end easily. You will suffer first. And in the next moment, everything vanished. Broken and terrified, Ilyas finally went to the one man he had always ignored. Morham Pir Sahib. He fell at his feet and begged, please save my wife, I'll give you everything. Morham Sahib calmly said, this is not the time to lose yourself. Have patience, trust in Allah. He took Ilyas into his care. That very night, he began searching for answers. And soon, a terrifying truth came forward. This was not random. This was not grief. This was something planned. A dark force. A curse. And the most frightening part, it came from someone Ilyas knew very well. What if I told you? The real danger hadn't even begun yet. Because while Ilyas was trying to save his wife, something else was already coming for his family. Far away from the village, Ilyas's younger son, Farid, was returning home. He had no idea what had happened. No idea his brother was gone. No idea his mother had disappeared. And no idea something was waiting for him on the road. It was a cold, silent night. The only sounds were the creaking of the cart and distant howls echoing through the darkness. Farid sat quietly, thinking about his mother. It had been a long time since he had seen her. This time he had brought a gift, a beautiful gold necklace. He smiled to himself, unaware of what was ahead. Suddenly, the cart slowed down. A woman was standing in the middle of the road. The driver called out, "Who are you? Why are you standing here at this hour?" The woman replied softly, "I'm from a nearby village. My mother is sick. I went out looking for work. Now I'm trying to return home, but I'm scared to walk alone." Farid felt sympathy. Despite the driver warning him, he allowed her to get on the cart. The moment she stepped onto the cart, something felt wrong. The air changed. It became heavy, uncomfortable. The wind stopped. Even the animals began moving slower. The driver tried to push them forward, but they struggled. Eventually, they reached a lonely area near a cremation ground. The woman suddenly said, "Stop the cart, I'll get down here." Farid was confused. "You said you were afraid, why here?" She didn't answer. She stepped down. As Farid reached out to stop her, he grabbed her hand and instantly felt it. Cold. Unnaturally cold. Before he could react, she pushed him away. And then, she ran. Not like a normal person. She moved too fast. Farid followed her just a few steps. And then he saw something that froze him completely. She jumped and climbed straight onto the top of a massive tree. In one motion, Farid's heart started pounding. He ran back to the cart. "Drive quickly, drive." But the driver didn't respond. Farid stepped closer. And then he saw it. The driver lying still. Something terrible had happened. Farid stumbled back in shock. His mind went blank. Only one thought remained. Run. He turned and ran as fast as he could. Behind him, a voice echoed through the darkness. "Stop just once, look back." But Farid didn't stop. He didn't turn. He kept running, as fast as he could. Finally, he saw a small mosque ahead. A faint light. Safety. He rushed toward it and collapsed. When Farid regained consciousness, he found himself in front of Morham Pir Sahib. Trembling still in fear, he explained everything. Morham Sahib listened carefully, then said, "I know what you faced last night." Farid looked up in shock. Morham continued, "I had already sent protection for you. But when you allowed it onto your cart, that protection could no longer stop it completely." Farid's voice shook. "What was that?" Morham Sahib replied calmly, "Something sent with intention." That evening, another truth came forward. And this time, it was far more disturbing. This was no ordinary curse. This was something much deeper. Someone had carefully collected personal items from Ilyas's family and used them to create something dark, something powerful. And the one behind it was not a stranger. It was someone from within the family, someone driven by anger and the desire for revenge. What if I told you? Some curses don't just destroy a person. They destroy an entire bloodline. And by the time you realize it, it's already too late. That night felt different. The air around Morham Pir Sahib's place had grown heavy. Even the silence felt unnatural. Farid sat quietly, still shaken from what he had witnessed. Ilyas, on the other hand, looked like a broken man. He hadn't slept. He hadn't eaten. All he could think about was Johora. Then suddenly, Morham Pir Sahib opened his eyes. His expression had changed. Serious, focused, as if he had just seen something no one else could. He slowly said, "This is no ordinary curse." Both Ilyas and Farid looked at him. Morham continued, "This was planned step by step, and it has been going on for a long time." Farid asked, his voice trembling, "Who would do something like this?" There was a pause. Then Morham said, "Someone who hates your family deeply." Ilyas looked down, as if somewhere deep inside he already knew. Morham spoke again. "This wasn't done by an amateur. This required knowledge, patience, and darkness." He then revealed something disturbing. Personal belongings were taken. Hair, clothing, traces connected to your family. Farid's eyes widened. Ilyas slowly whispered, "But who could have access to all that?" Morham looked straight at him. "Someone close." The room fell silent. Moments later, Morham stood up. "This ends tonight." Farid felt a chill. "Tonight?" Morham nodded. "If we wait, it will grow stronger." Ilyas immediately said, "Take me with you." Morham paused for a moment, then agreed. They set out just before midnight. The path was dark, silent. Even the wind seemed to avoid that place. After some time, they reached an abandoned area near the edge of the village, a place people avoided. Morham stopped. "This is where it's anchored." Farid looked around. Nothing, just darkness. Then suddenly, a strange sound, like whispers, coming from everywhere and nowhere. The air grew colder. He could feel it on his skin. Morham began reciting quietly, his voice calm but powerful. The whispers grew louder. Then, a shadow appeared, not fully visible, but present, moving, watching. Farid stepped back. Ilyas couldn't move. The shadow shifted. And then, a familiar voice echoed. "You came finally." Ilyas froze. He recognized that voice. His face turned pale. "No, this can't be." The shadow twisted, slowly taking form. And then, the truth revealed itself. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't some unknown force. It was connected to his own past, to decisions he had made years ago, actions he had buried, but never escaped. The presence spoke again. "You took everything. Now watch everything fall apart." Ilyas collapsed to his knees. This wasn't supposed to happen. Morham stepped forward. "Enough." His voice was firm. Whatever this was, it resisted. The air trembled. The whispers turned into sharp echoes. Farid covered his ears. Morham continued, stronger now. The shadow began to weaken. It flickered, distorted, but it didn't disappear easily. Because this wasn't just fear. This was built on pain, on betrayal, on revenge. Then suddenly, another sound. A scream, faint but familiar. Farid looked around. "Did you hear that?" Ilyas's heart stopped. "Johora." The voice came again. Weak, distant. Morham turned. "She's still alive." Without wasting a second, they moved deeper into the darkness. Behind a broken structure, they found her. Johora, unconscious, weak but breathing. Ilyas rushed forward. "Johora." Morham stopped him. "Careful." The energy around her was unstable. He slowly approached, reciting softly. The darkness around her began to fade. Slowly, she opened her eyes, confused, lost, but alive. At that moment, the shadow behind them let out a final echo. Not loud, but filled with rage. And then, it disappeared. The silence returned. This time, real silence. They brought Johura back. Days passed. The house slowly returned to normal. But not everything was the same. Some things never go back. Ilyas changed. Completely. He became quiet, withdrawn, as if he understood something too late. Farid stayed close to his family, never leaving them again. And Morham Pir Sahib, he simply said, "Not all darkness is outside. Sometimes it begins within. What if I told you? Some endings are not endings at all. They are just the beginning of something much darker." Days passed after Johura was brought back. On the surface, everything seemed normal again. The house was no longer silent. The fear had faded. And for the first time in a long while, Ilyas felt like he could breathe again. But peace didn't last, because something had changed. Not around them, but inside them. Johura Begum survived, but she was not the same person anymore. She spoke less. Sometimes she wouldn't speak at all. She would just sit quietly, staring at nothing, as if she was still seeing something no one else could. Farid noticed it first. One night, he found her standing in the courtyard, looking up at the sky, not moving, not blinking, just staring. "Ma." No response. He stepped closer. "Ma, are you okay?" Slowly, she turned her head, and for a moment, Farid felt something he couldn't explain. Her eyes looked unfamiliar, not empty, but distant, as if a part of her was somewhere else. Inside the house, strange things started again. Not like before. Subtle, quiet, almost unnoticeable. Footsteps at night. Soft sounds when no one was there. Doors slightly open when they were clearly closed before. Farid tried to ignore it. He didn't want to believe. It was happening again. One evening, he finally went to Morham Pir Sahib. "I don't think it's over." Morham looked at him carefully. "What makes you say that?" Farid hesitated, then said, "My mother, she's not the same." There was silence. Morham closed his eyes briefly, as if listening to something unseen. Then slowly said, "Sometimes, when someone is taken that close, they don't return alone." Farid's heart dropped. "What do you mean?" Morham didn't answer directly. Instead, he stood up. "We need to see her." That night, they returned to the house. Everything felt calm. Too calm. Johura was sitting inside. Quiet. Still. Morham approached her. "Johura Begum." No response. He sat in front of her and softly said, "If you can hear me, respond." For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, her fingers twitched. Farid stepped back. Morham's voice became firmer. "Who is here?" Silence. Then slowly, Johura smiled. A small smile. But something about it felt wrong. Very wrong. Farid felt the same cold fear he had felt that night on the road. Then she spoke, but the voice wasn't hers. You should have left it alone. Farid froze. Morham didn't move. Why are you still here? The voice responded. Because I was invited. The room went silent. Farid whispered. Invited. Morham's expression hardened. He understood. Something had entered. Not by force, but through permission. The air grew heavy again. That same feeling. From before. Morham stood up. This is not over. The voice laughed softly. You were too late. Farid couldn't breathe properly. What does that mean? The voice whispered. It doesn't need to destroy anymore. It just needs to stay. Suddenly, Johora collapsed. The room went silent again. This time, completely. Farid rushed forward. Ma. She slowly opened her eyes. Confused. Normal. As if nothing had happened. Days passed again. This time, no major incidents. No shadows. No voices. Nothing. Everything seemed peaceful. Perfect. Too perfect. Until one night. Farid woke up suddenly. He didn't know why. But something felt wrong. He stepped outside his room. The house was quiet. Everyone asleep. Then he noticed. A door slightly open. Ilyas's room. Farid slowly walked toward it. Pushed the door open. And froze. Ilyas was sitting on the floor. Facing the wall. Whispering something. Over and over again. Farid stepped closer. Abba. No response. He leaned in, trying to hear what he was saying. And then, he understood. Ilyas was repeating the same sentence. Again and again. It's not gone. It's still here. Farid slowly stepped back. His heart racing. Because deep down, he realized something terrifying. This wasn't a curse anymore. This was something else. Something that didn't need chaos. Didn't need fear. It just needed to exist. Among them. Inside them. What if I told you? The scariest thing isn't something chasing you. It's something living with you. Watching you. Learning you. Waiting. After that night, Farid stopped sleeping properly. Every sound felt louder. Every shadow felt closer. And every silence felt like something was hiding inside it. The house looked normal. Nothing was out of place. No strange movements. No shadows. No voices. But that was the problem. Because now, everything was too quiet. Farid started observing. Carefully. Closely. His mother, Johora, was behaving normally. Talking, eating, even smiling sometimes. But something felt off. Very slightly. Almost unnoticeable. But it was there. Sometimes she would stop mid-conversation and just stare. Not at anyone. Not at anything. Just stare into empty space. As if listening. Ilyas was worse. He barely spoke anymore. Spent most of his time alone. And whenever Farid tried to talk to him, he would only say one thing. Stay close, don't stay alone. At first, Farid thought it was fear. But then he realized. It wasn't fear. It was a warning. One night, Farid decided to stay awake. No sleep. No distractions. Just watching. Hours passed. Nothing happened. Then slowly, around the deepest part of the night. He heard it, a sound, soft, like someone walking barefoot. Inside the house, Farid held his breath. The sound moved from one room to another, slow, careful, as if it didn't want to be noticed. Farid stepped out of his room. The sound stopped. Silence. Again. Then suddenly, he heard a whisper. Right behind him. "Why are you awake?" Farid turned instantly. No one. His heart started pounding. He stepped back. And then, he saw something. At the end of the hallway. A figure. Standing still. Watching him. He couldn't see the face clearly. But he knew. It was looking directly at him. Farid tried to speak. But his voice wouldn't come out. The figure didn't move. Didn't come closer. Didn't disappear. It just stood there. Then, slowly, it lifted its hand and pointed towards something. Farid followed the direction. It was pointing at his father's room. Farid gathered courage. Step by step, he walked toward the door. Behind him, the presence was still there. Watching. Waiting. He pushed the door open. The room was dark, but he could see Ilyas. Standing. Facing the wall again. Whispering. Farid stepped closer. "Abba." No response. Then suddenly, Ilyas stopped. Complete silence. Farid froze. Slowly, Ilyas turned his head. But not fully. Just enough to show one side of his face. And then, in a voice that didn't sound like his own, he said, "You're seeing it now, aren't you?" Farid's blood ran cold. Before he could react, everything went dark. For a moment. Just a moment. But when the light returned, Ilyas was normal again. Confused. Tired. As if nothing had happened. The next morning, Farid went straight to Morham Pir Sahib. "This is not over." Morham looked at him. Calm. But serious. "I know." Farid stepped forward. "What is this? It's not attacking, it's not leaving, what is it?" Morham paused. Then said something that changed everything. "It has already done what it came for." Farid felt a chill. "What do you mean?" Morham looked directly into his eyes. "It doesn't need to harm anymore. Because now, it's part of your home." Farid couldn't accept it. There must be a way to remove it. Morham shook his head slowly. "Not everything can be removed. Some things can only be controlled." That night, Farid returned home. He didn't feel safe anymore. Not in his room. Not anywhere. Because now he understood. It wasn't hiding outside. It wasn't coming from somewhere else. It was already there. Inside. As he lay down, trying to stay awake, he heard a soft voice again. Very close. Right beside him. This time, clear, calm, almost gentle. "You don't need to be afraid." Farid closed his eyes tightly, trying to ignore it. Then the voice whispered, "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to stay." Farid slowly opened his eyes and realized something terrifying. The voice was coming from inside his own mind. "What if I told you?" The worst part of a curse is not when it begins, but when you stop fighting it. After that night, Farid didn't tell anyone what he heard. Not his father. not even Morham Pir Sahib. Because deep down, he knew something had changed. Not around him, but inside him. Days passed. Everything seemed normal. Johora was calm. Ilyas was quiet. No shadows. No whispers. No strange movements. Nothing. And that was the most dangerous part. Because now, it didn't need to show itself anymore. Farid started noticing something strange. He wasn't afraid anymore. Not like before. The fear that once kept him awake at night was gone, replaced by something else. Something quiet. Something accepting. One evening, he was sitting alone in the courtyard. The sky was dark, wind moving slowly, and for the first time, he felt peaceful. Then the voice returned. Soft, clear. You're finally calm. Farid didn't react. He didn't panic. He didn't run. He simply sat there, listening. You understand now, don't you? Farid slowly whispered. Yes. At that moment, something inside him settled, like a door closing, or maybe opening. Inside the house, Ilyas was watching him from a distance. His eyes filled with fear, because he had seen this before. That same stillness, that same acceptance. Ilyas rushed to Morham Pir Sahib the next day. It's happening again. Morham looked at him. What is? Ilyas said, his voice shaking. My son, he's not fighting it anymore. Morham remained silent for a long moment. Then slowly said, That's how it completes. Ilyas felt his chest tighten. No, there has to be a way. Morham looked at him. Not with fear, but with truth. You were warned. That night, everything became clear. Farid was sitting in his room. Alone. Calm. Eyes open. Not moving. Ilyas slowly entered. Farid. No response. He stepped closer. Son, talk to me. Farid finally turned and smiled. Not wide. Not unnatural. But not normal either. Then he spoke. In his own voice. But not fully his own. It's easier this way. Ilyas stepped back. What are you saying? Farid stood up slowly. No more fear, no more pain. The room felt heavier. The air colder. Then Farid said something that broke Ilyas completely. It was never trying to destroy us. It was trying to stay. Ilyas fell to his knees. No, please. Farid walked past him. Slowly, calmly, and stopped at the doorway. Without turning back, he said, You can fight it your whole life. Or you can live with it. Then he left. Days later, people noticed something strange. The Zamindar house was no longer feared. No strange stories. No incidents. Nothing. Everything seemed peaceful. Farid had taken over the house. He managed everything. Spoke normally. Lived normally. No signs of fear. No signs of anything unusual. But sometimes, late at night, people passing by would say they saw someone standing in the courtyard. Still, silent, watching, and sometimes they would hear voices. Not loud, not clear, but enough to feel something wasn't right. Inside the house, Ilyas had completely withdrawn. He rarely spoke, rarely moved, because he knew the truth. The curse was never removed. It was never broken. It didn't end. It adapted. And now, it didn't need darkness. It didn't need fear. It didn't need to hide. Because now, it had a place to stay. Headphone final ending line, strong impact. Some curses don't kill you. They live with you. Until you stop being you.